like by the time I finish anything, I hate it. Yeah. You know, and even this movie, I had a really tough relationship with until the screening, the premiere, when I was in the room and like everyone was laughing the whole time. And it was the first time I like breathed a sigh of relief. And I was like, oh, it is. People like it. That's good. Because I was just so in my head about all the little things that I didn't like that I was no longer seeing the funny parts.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Jimmy Tatro is an actor. He sat down with me on the Upper West Side of Manhattan to talk about the work. I want to set the stage for how I saw this movie because it's really important. I live with two women. One of them is my wife and the other is her mother. No movie can get past the three of us. Like, we have such different tastes, right? My wife loves none of the movies I love. I'm an art movie lover, foreign movie lover. And my mother-in-law is the, shoot 'em up lover, and my wife doesn't like it. There's nothing that can get past all of us, right? Somebody is annoyed when we're watching something, right? So every time somebody sends me something, I watch everything now for at least a couple minutes. And I turn off almost everything. And I just say, I'm sorry. I'm a snob. I can't talk to this person. I hate this. And I'll be honest. The Real Bros of Simi Valley, the movie, I put it on and I had my hand on the stop button because I didn't know you. I didn't look that deep into it. I never saw your work before. I didn't know about your channel. I'm 50 years old. I don't watch YouTube like that. And I don't know this stuff. So I'm like, all right, I'm holding stop on the button. I don't want to waste time. I want to be able to say, I tried it. Not only did we watch the whole thing, we all loved it, bro. And I'm being real here. But you have to understand how crazy that is. Now when I go back and I start to watch the other seasons, this movie, I don't know if you've met anyone that has seen that first, the movie, before seeing anything else. And it works. The reason why I'm starting this interview like this is because it's not only miraculous that I got through it like that and not having seen anything else of the other work, but this is a certain kind of comedy that usually misses with me. And it hit hard with me. And I was laughing and loving it. So we're starting with the miracle. Now let's work our way up to it. Okay. Take me back to what was your first kind of excitement or your synapses in your brain about comedy? And what was that kind of comedy? What was it that was making you want to do it yourself? And when was that?
I grew up watching SNL. So I always saw that as the peak. And then when I started seeing the SNL digital shorts, that was when something kind of went off in my brain. And that was just, I was like, I like that. And I guess I always kind of made stuff. Like I grew up in Venice skateboarding and I made skate videos. And that was my introduction to, I guess, filmmaking. I had a little DV camera. I would carry around a boombox and I'd hit record and play at the same time because I didn't have a way to edit it. So that was the way I would keep some kind of a soundtrack going.
Yeah.
Hit record and play, hit record and stop.
Yeah.
And you'd have this choppy Linkin Park song going through the background of a skate video. And I started making those funny, just naturally. Mm-hmm. And then that kind of turned into little random sketches I would just make with my friends.
Were you, when you were making sketches with friends, were they on your page about what's funny?
Yeah, I think so. And they were random, you know, it'd be like, like I used to make little videos with my brother. Once I realized how to edit, or how to not even edit, but like record one angle and then go around and record the other and then you export it onto a VHS and that's your video.
Yeah.
Just even doing that made it feel like a real thing.
Yeah. It's so funny that you have that, because you're so much younger than me, but you have that, because that, I found the movie that I made entirely inside the camera. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Where you have to go around. I didn't think that was, I thought that was gone after the VHS camera is gone. But I guess that's still like when you're working with what you have as a young person. Yeah. And that actually kind of breeds kind of creativity too, doesn't it? Because you got to figure out a way to do this now.
There's no editing. So it is an interesting way to do it where there's no like take backs. Like you can try to rewind it and record over what you did, but it's not going to be perfect.
Right.
So that was the start of sketch comedy kind of.
Yeah.
And then when I got to high school, I took TV production. I learned how to edit. I was on my school's TV show where it was supposed to be news about the school. And I just tried to make sketches. And my TV production teacher and I had like serious beef. She still talks shit about me to this day, which is crazy. Kids will come up to me and be like, hey, Miss Harkins still talks shit about you. I'm like, what? How do you have beef with a 17-year-old kid?
What were you doing to her?
I just was trying to make funny videos. Like the school doesn't want to see this serious news about like the soccer team going to Alhambra this weekend.
Yeah.
Like they want us to laugh. It's Friday morning at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
So I would like make funny videos and she'd be like, this is stupid. And we just really butted heads. And it's funny, I always said to Mom, one day I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to get successful. I'm going to walk in. I'm going to say, she said I would never be anything. And look at me now. And now I turned like 30. I'm like, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to walk into this poor TV production teacher's office.
That's growth.
Yeah. But I learned, that was where I learned how to edit and I learned how to actually make things.
And when that starts to be implemented in, does it change the way you approach comedy in general? You know what I mean? Like the other way is like this rawness, but now that you know that the cut actually is funny, now that you know that you can actually bring out the funny in the cut.
Yeah, you can start to experiment with timing.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's crazy how much of a difference like a couple frames can make with comedic timing.
Exactly.
Like if you ask me like, hey, did you take this thing? And I immediately go, no. You might not laugh, but if someone says, hey, did you take the cookies? No.
Yeah.
Like that extra pause just makes it funnier. Right. And it's weird how something can click like that.
Yeah. Were you learning this kind of stuff then?
I was, but it was like I was supposed to be making news segments about the women's basketball team going to state championships next weekend.
Tell me about how you started to put these things online and how long did it take to kind of catch on? What was the stuff you were initially doing like that? And what else was going on in your life at that time? Were you trying to be an actor in other ways, or was this just the only thing you were doing in that way?
No, I knew I wanted to make stuff. I didn't know what I wanted to make. I just have always liked making things. And when I got to college, I also knew I needed to get something else going because what I was going to school for wasn't going to ultimately be my career. I was studying economics. I knew that wasn't what I was going to do. And I kind of went into college with this mindset of, I have 4 years to try to figure something out outside of school so that I don't graduate with no plan. And pretty early on, someone that lived down the hall from me was telling me about his friend that started a YouTube channel and was making, like $400,000 a year on YouTube or something. And I had made some YouTube videos. Like I had uploaded some of my videos to YouTube and secretly hoped that they would blow up. And when I saw the videos, it was just, something just kind of clicked. I was like, I can do this. I can do that. And so I was rushing a fraternity my freshman year in college. And that in itself is just an absurd experience. I was like, this is so ridiculous. I need a way to make fun of this. Because there's so many characters that are taking this so seriously. And there was this guy, Glenn, who was just like everything. If there was a character description of Glenn, a producer would say, this is too on the nose. You gotta, it's too much.
Yeah.
So I would like, he'd come in and yell at us and he'd leave and I'd start doing impressions of him. And every now and then a quote would hit pretty hard. Like I would say something that he might say.
Yeah.
And I'd get a laugh and I'd kind of write that down. Okay, that's a good one. And I had this list of quotes and I decided to make them into a video that I called Frat Life. And it was me like making fun of this dude, essentially. And it blew up. I uploaded it. Wait till I got into the fraternity.
Yeah.
And then I made the video and uploaded it. And it went viral like across fraternities.
Wow. Okay.
And then I became the frat guy.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you're
which was funny because then all these people thought that I was this guy.
Yeah, right.
Because I was just using my name. I was just saying I'm Jimmy.
Right.
I should have just said I'm fucking Todd, But now I got all these guys coming up to me like, you're Jimmy. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, so you're that guy. I'm like, well, no, it's a character. Like, but your name's Jimmy. Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
And you are in a fraternity. I am. Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah. A bunch of things are true. Yep.
So then, I didn't want to do those videos forever. I wanted to just make videos, sketches, just about everything relatable that was going on in my life.
Yeah.
But it was like all this pressure to make more of those types of videos.
When you say pressure, where was that pressure coming from? Just from your sizing up of, I got to keep riding this wave? Or was it actually people that were getting involved at this point?
No, it was subscribers. Like I basically, when I put that video out, it got like 100,000 views, which at the time was huge.
Yeah.
I got 2,000 subscribers.
Wow.
And I was like, boom,
yeah.
I got it. I have a group of people now that I can work with. And I just started making more stuff. And those people, more frat stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that. So I had to just kind of slowly I keep doing some.
You got to
phase it out.
Feed the beast enough where it keeps alive.
Yeah.
But slide it some other kind of food.
Yeah. So eventually, took a while, but I eventually kind of phased that character out completely. And then it just became a sketch comedy channel.
So when this happens, then are you kind of upping the game of production, or are you trying to keep it the same thing? Not
yet. I wanted to, but what I was making on YouTube wasn't enough to finance the type of videos that I wanted to make. Yeah. So I started doing weekly videos. I signed with a YouTube manager who was like, the best way to grow is to do weekly videos. And this is in like 2010. So this is not like, this is still a pretty new concept. Yeah. And so I started doing weekly videos, start building a following. And over time, I stopped wanting to do things so guerrilla style. I didn't want to like shoot somewhere and there's people yelling at you saying you gotta leave. I wanted to do things more by the book. Yeah. And once I started acting in movies too and being exposed to what it actually looks like and feels like to be on a set, that started to kind of make its way into the production value.
How was that happening? Did you get an agent from this? Were you then trying to get auditions?
I did the first offer. It wasn't an offer. The first audition offer I got was to be in Grown Ups 2 as a frat boy. Obviously.
On the nose.
Yeah. And I did it.
Yeah.
And that was an eye-opening experience. All of a sudden, I'm on set. You know, it's like I mean, that was a big budget movie.
Right.
And, we're shooting at a house, and then all of a sudden we go to shoot in the backyard, and they drive us to a different place. And I'm like, where are we going? And they're like, oh, they built the back of the house. They built the replica house just because they needed a bigger backyard. And we enter this massive, like 3 football field sized tent where they just have built the back of the house so that they could make whatever backyard they wanted. And I said, this is insane. This is nuts. I'm shooting on like a flip camera.
Yeah.
And, but that was in my head.
Yeah.
And then I got an agent shortly after that and booked 22 Jump Street, which was the first sizable role. And another eye-opening experience. All of a sudden I'm acting with Jonah Hill. And he's just riffing, and I'm
improvising, and you're keeping up, stuff like that.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, that opened, and I'm working with Phil Lord and Chris Miller. So I was very lucky to get to work with like such great people so early on and just soak it in. But it also made me want to get off of YouTube and start doing longer stuff.
I was going to say, so at that time, are you every time you're on a set like this, you're going back and still trying to be consistent with the YouTube videos, right? Trying to grow that. But what was your, were you sizing up the kind of career you wanted to have at this point? Like, and were you seeing these as 2 separate roads?
I mean, initially it was like launchpad. YouTube's a launchpad. I'm going to start off here and then I'm going to go over there. And then as time went on and digital and, traditional media started to kind of blend together, I saw the value in keeping everything going at the same time. But it's a lot of work to uphold a YouTube channel. Like when I booked 22 Jump Street, my writing partner and I was like, I'm going for 2 months. Let's write and shoot 12 videos. So we wrote and shot 12 videos. I brought all the footage out with me to New Orleans and I edited on my off days and kept a video coming out every Monday. That, when you really start acting consistently, that's no longer, you can no longer do that.
Right.
So I met this guy, Michael Gallagher, who was another YouTube guy who had he had started a production company and actually understood how to make things for cheap. I met with a couple line producers. I'd explain an idea and they'd be like, yeah, we could do that for like 50 grand easy. And I'm like, 50? No, we're not speaking the same language here. This is not a 50 grand, I'm talking like 2 to 5, and even that is a lot.
Yeah. And they thought that you'd be excited about that number.
Yeah, they thought, they'd be like, well, this guy can really, this guy knows how to wheel and deal, 50K.
Yeah.
So he actually understood YouTube and I started working with him, and then it became like, all right, we'll do one more expensive video and then we'll kind of do a few other cheap ones. And then it just created a balance where like we can slowly up the production value. But also once you establish a production value, you don't want to go back.
Right.
But it was interesting. A lot of people early on, I started getting complaints like the production value is getting too high. I'm like, well, you might want to tap out because it's not going back down.
That's such a weird thing for someone to say. So weird. But wait, so you mentioned the writing partner, and this is Christian
Pierce.
Where did he come in to play?
So,
and how do you work together?
We were in the same fraternity. And we realized that we had similar aspirations, and he also kind of made videos, and we kind of bonded over that. And we started off filming. He was filming, and then he would write some stuff, and then slowly over time we just started. There was a day where I was like, hey, I can't do this alone. I need someone to look at every week and say, what are we doing? I can't just look in the mirror.
Wait, pause. What is it that you needed though? Like when I think of collaborating with somebody, I think of nothing but strife because I'm never on the same page with somebody. You know what I mean? I've tried this before. Maybe this is me, But I'm trying to imagine like what you were seeing that you needed. You just needed a bouncing board. Did you need somebody to make something better, to punch something up?
I needed another person. It was too much to do on my own.
I see.
And, you know, from just to see through the whole thing with.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was still a lot of times where it was just kind of, I'm in the library at 12 a.m. trying to upload a video before Monday. But being able to talk to someone about it and, you know, write with him and, you know, have a different perspective was helpful.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely going to be strife with any partnership.
Yeah.
It's never going to be completely straightforward.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you just got to work there. We've had our ups and downs, but,
always on the same page in terms of comedy, though. Always on the same page in terms of what you laugh at and what he laughs at.
Not necessarily, no.
Oh.
And I think that's actually has been valuable, is that we don't agree on a lot of things. And it gets, you know, it can be tricky.
Yeah.
But having a perspective of a person that doesn't agree with you on everything can be valuable.
Yes.
And there's things that he might say that I'd be like, I don't know about that. But a lot of other people think that way.
Yeah.
And they would laugh at his version
right,
of it.
Right. So you almost have to like realize, I may not laugh at this, but it's funny to other people.
Yeah.
And you have to give in.
And that's a big part of the editing process, you know, because you just when you become immune to a joke, you start to go, this isn't funny anymore.
Right.
And then people go, no, it is. You're like,
Right.
I'm not laughing at all.
Yeah, that's weird, right? Because you would think, and I think I have the false assumption that if I'm not laughing, it's not funny. And if people are laughing, I'm like, they are fucking wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surrounded by, like, I was in a movie theater at the Tribeca Film Festival where everybody is laughing hysterically around me except me. And I'm like, I can't believe there's this many fucking wrong people in one room.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way I think, though.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some kind of, that's a thing to get over. I think you got to get over that.
It's tough, though, especially like I said in the edit, when you've watched something a million times. Like, by the time I finish anything, I hate it.
Yeah.
You know, and even this movie, I had a really tough relationship with until the screening, the premiere.
Then
When I was in the room and like everyone was laughing the whole time.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I like breathed a sigh of relief. And I was like, oh, it is. People like it. That's good.
Yeah.
Because I was just so in my head about all the little things that I didn't like.
Right.
That I was no longer seeing the funny parts.
Right. Isn't that funny?
And it was, people were coming up to me after the premiere, like, how do you feel? I was like, whew, I feel relieved.
It's relief.
I feel really good, actually.
Yeah.
Because people would ask me beforehand, like, how you feeling about it?
Yeah.
I'd be like,
Can I answer that later?
Yeah.
So, at what point did you start to do these Real Bros sketches?
Mm-hmm.
And what prompted that?
So, I had done a video called How to Make a Reality Show.
Yeah.
This was in like 2015. And it was with my buddy who I met on Grown Ups 2, David Henry. And we were talking about just the way that they film so much on reality shows. They have an endless vault of footage and audio clips.
Yeah.
You can piece together anything. You can make someone say whatever. So we basically took a normal conversation. I re-edited it.
Oh, interesting.
Added bleeps where there weren't curse words.
Yeah.
Blurred out a peace sign to make it look like a middle finger.
Yeah.
Added dramatic music, and it became a dramatic sequence.
Uh-huh.
And Christian and I had been riffing about reality shows and I think Real Housewives of Potomac had just come out. And we were like, what even is that? Is that a real place? I've never heard of that. And
So that really did come out?
It's a real show.
It's a real show?
And we were like, what more obscure of a place could we do? And at the time, it was, video was coming out every Monday. So basically Tuesday morning, we'd have a writing meeting and go through our ideas.
Yeah.
Say, what are we going to write, shoot, edit, and upload in 6 days?
Yeah.
That starts to get very stressful.
Oh, yeah.
So I started to say, well, let's try to knock out multiple videos in one shoot. So we would get a location and shoot 2 videos there. We would shot at a football stadium at like a junior college. We filmed a fantasy football video. We also filmed a video where like a Make-A-Wish kid runs for a touchdown and he gets tackled at the last second. So we were looking for almost little mini series that we could do.
Yeah.
And so we were like, let's make fun of a reality show. Let's do a parody. Real Housewives keeps coming up with obscure places. We're not going to do Housewives.
Yeah.
What do we know? Bros. We both went to high school in the Valley in Los Angeles.
So you're right.
There's a lot of those Deep Valley bros out there.
Yeah.
We wrote 3 episodes, shot it in 2 days. It ended up being 4 because it was a little long.
And is this the first episode? Is that actually what you see now if you go on YouTube? That's the first episode of that?
There's the one.
Season 1?
Season 1, episode 1. It's called Meet the Bros.
Yeah.
And it's noticeably different looking than season 2.
Yeah. All right. But it still looks really, good and fully formed and not like you're venturing into some other territory here, I must say.
Yeah. Well, that was what was good about meeting Michael Gallagher and having his production company, because there were certain things I didn't know how to produce,
Yeah.
I just started making videos, and then all of a sudden it was like, all right, well, we need to shoot at a boxing ring and, have like a horse come out. It's like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know where to get any of these things. So he had a production company that helped a lot with all that stuff. And they set up this 2-day shoot for the Real Bros of Simi Valley.
I see. And it's such an interesting thing too, because here's YouTube's kind of developing this idea that people who just are legitimately funny kind of rise to the top, where now you're trying to figure out how to do things and need a production company. And it's this whole new kind of thing where it's like the old days. It's like there is a production company that's trying to get talent and do it, and they got to go through all these hoops, become the director and writer. Now it's a director and writer who are trying to figure out, my God, there's the audience I have now that demands stuff, and I got to figure out how to supply it to them. And were you making enough money to not have to work other things and still keep this?
Yeah.
company?
So after 2 years of YouTube, I dropped out of school.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Which at the time, people were like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
This is 2012,
Yeah.
You're going to
Yeah.
drop out of school to pursue a career on YouTube? What are you, nuts?
Right.
And
No, they're silly.
it makes more sense now, but
Yeah.
and also it was a video. We were doing a video every week. Did that for about 4 years.
Wow.
So you can't go to school too.
No.
So I realistically should have dropped out, and I kind of did drop out after sophomore year. But then I found out all my best friends were getting a house together, and Christian was still going to school. I was still kind of making college themed videos. We were using like extras. Our friends were the extras.
Yeah.
And we would throw, like, when we had like a party video, we would just kind of throw a party, and everyone would have to listen to us for like 2 hours, and then it turns into a real party.
Yeah.
And so I stayed in school junior year, and I tried to take like 2 classes. I dropped out after like a month, and I just basically lived in college and made videos instead of went to school.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Which was a pretty absurd year.
Yeah. Right. So when you started this Real Bros of Simi Valley, you're kind of starting it for this other reason that's like, let's get a few episodes out of this. But then it turns into this thing that's a series.
Yeah, so my multi-channel network, which is what the people that manage YouTube channels,
Yeah.
hit me up and were like, hey, what do you think about us trying to sell this to Facebook Watch?
Ah.
And Facebook Watch was trying to do original content. They were trying to become a streamer.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't something I really was prioritizing. I was actually working on another show and like other things that I was like, that's going to be my thing.
Yeah.
This I didn't really care about, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And so we typed up like an outline of what season 2 would look like.
Yeah.
They showed them season 1, gave them the outline, and they were like, hey, they want to do it. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess. And they were like, yeah, they want to do it. Super low budget, like 80 grand an episode, which I'm hearing that coming from like self-financing.
Right.
I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
80 grand.
Yeah.
Shows are like 2 to 3 million. So that doesn't really.
Yeah.
And then it became a bigger thing, and it ended up being like closer to like 400.
Uh-huh.
And we wrote a full show, like a 10 episode show.
Wow. Yeah.
And we really started involving more of the characters. And
Were they getting involved in weird ways though, or did they just let you do what you wanted to do? Facebook.
they were pretty good about letting us do what we wanted to do. There was a lot of things that they were like, that's too ridiculous. And you got to really stand firm on the things that you know are going to work. A lot of the things that ended up being the biggest moments in the show and the movie, like there was pressure to cut.
So I just hate hearing stuff like that. So how do you fight that though? Mm-hmm. And especially in the beginning, when you first fight something, are you worried about like what are the ramifications of me pushing back on this?
Right. It's harder in the beginning when you don't have proof that your ideas work.
Right.
And you have to really convince them why it's right. After 2 seasons, 3 seasons, it's kind of like, all right, we trust you guys know the audience.
Yeah, exactly.
This might sound ridiculous, but like, we'll let you do it.
Yeah.
There were multiple things like, yeah, there was a lot of things that there was pressure to cut that I'm like so happy we stood firm because they ended up being some of the funniest things. Like Hawk getting old. Was like a random thing that they're like, no one will understand this. But it ended up being such a good runner. But so many things like that, there's pressure to cut.
And you know what's funny? I got to just say this as an aside. Seeing that in the movie, like as a flashback, not knowing, it was actually funny in the way that, like, because you have to. I almost appreciated that I had to do all this work to figure out, like, that this is probably was mined out through the show. It actually made it really funny.
That's
like that.
That was the one thing in the movie that I was like, I don't know if a new viewer would understand this at all.
I imagine you would. Right. But I honestly, I really thought that was funny, just as me as a new viewer. So that's interesting, right? That you can get away with that.
We had in season 2, 3, we had this whole twist that it was a bit much. It was like, you find out that there's a girl that's stirring up drama all season. And like, why? What is up with this girl? And it turns out at the end, she's a producer for Facebook. And she was sent in to stir up drama.
That's interesting.
So we'd get more views.
Yeah.
And we were like, they might have some thoughts on that one.
Yeah.
So we added another one that was way crazier.
Oh.
And we told them that, and they were kind of like, okay. And we were like, and then they find out she's been cloning them. And they're planning on cloning the real bros so the show can go on forever. We kind of felt the room go, and they didn't want to say absolutely not. So they were like, we like the producer. We were like, perfect, we'll take it.
Yes. That's what they say. Give them something to say no to.
Yeah.
And so they don't say no to the thing you want to get in.
Yeah. That being said, we may have done the clones if they said yes.
Still a good idea.
We were willing to take it.
Yeah.
But I think it worked better without them.
So that becomes a hit then on Facebook. Were people actually watching? Was there a deal where you had it on your channel too, or you couldn't?
Season 1 was on YouTube. Season 2 was on Facebook.
Interesting.
We weren't able to. Facebook wasn't willing to
As well, they shouldn't
take season 1 and put it on their channel, and I wasn't allowed to pick season 2 and put it on YouTube. So it just became this weird thing where season 1 was on. They were on different places.
Yeah.
And that was tough. And Facebook, I appreciate them for making this all possible, but it was a tough platform to watch things
I'm
on.
sure.
But we still, the episodes all got 4 million views an episode.
Interesting. So, it could have been the kind of thing where it's like that, like everything that could have taken off and we're now living in the world where we watch everything on Facebook. Like right now we watch things on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like it could have been like that. And so you have to imagine they had to do what they had to do to keep it, to try and migrate people over.
Yeah.
But then what happens after the second season now? Then you go season 3, then did they re-up you?
Yeah. So then the only complaint we got about season 2 was it's too short.
Huh.
And I think season 2, they didn't really trust that we could write a full 20 to 30 minute show. Mm-hmm. That's been the recurring theme with this whole process is there's never any trust until you just do it. And then you do it and then you go, oh, that's great. Why didn't you do that before? And you go, well, because you didn't trust us, so we couldn't.
Even when you have people loving what you do, you still don't have the trust from the people making decisions.
They said we liked the first season. It works as a 4 to 6. They wanted to make it again 5 minutes. And we were like, that doesn't work. Let's make it longer. Let's make it a full thing. And they met us halfway at 12 to 15. And then everyone was like, this is too short. And they're like, yeah, it is too short. So then season 3, we were allowed to do 20 to 30. And season 3 is the season I'm most proud of. Because at that point, we had also set up an Instagram account for every character.
Wow.
So the show came out weekly.
Oh, God.
And we would post photos from all these characters' accounts as if it was real life.
That's
So you
amazing.
could tease things that were happening. I'd post a photo with my baby, and then one of the characters everyone would be like, oh, Bryce is going to be so mad. And it would tee up the next episode where he pulls up the Instagram photo and says, you see this?
Yeah.
So we created this whole world. And then the characters launch a clothing line in episode 9. So we actually launched that website that day and actually sell clothes.
Oh, that's amazing. And so people were eating this up then, right? When it gets to be like that.
They were eating it up. All the character accounts had 80,000 followers. It's the engagement was through the roof.
Wow. And so at this point, are people trusting you? Because now you're doing what everybody wants everyone to do, cross-platform kind of stuff with merch.
Well, so this is where it gets really frustrating, actually, because no. So Facebook's stopped being a platform. They basically said, we're Facebook. Why are we spending so much money making content? Just continue to be Facebook and make billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So they kind of shut down their streaming platform. So we were now able to go pitch to go sell it somewhere else. And it seemed like a home run. We have a show that's getting millions of views an episode. The fans have proven that they'll go from YouTube to Facebook Watch, which is hard to go to. And we have a whole world. We have all these Instagram accounts. It's built in. Pitched it to the major streamers. They all loved it, but said no. And we kind of were in a position where we had the offer to do it as a movie. And it was, well, can this be immediate first thought was, this is not a movie, this is a show. And then became, okay, well, it's either the movie or it's nothing.
Yeah. Wow.
And obviously we'll take the movie.
Yeah. So
then it becomes, how do we turn this from a show into a movie? What's the idea? We had 2 more seasons we wanted to do. The end was going to be the high school reunion. This is a show about a group of people that peaked in high school.
Yeah.
It's got to end with their 10-year high school reunion.
Yeah.
So that, once we started thinking about that, we kind of realized that works as a movie. The 10-year high school reunion. They get invited. They're all excited. They want to become the sickest versions of themselves in time to flex on all their old classmates.
Yeah.
That's a movie.
Yeah. Let's stop for a second and just, I love this movie, but it makes no sense to like say should be a movie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at this point you would be like, okay, now give this guy whatever he wants in this 4th season and really go in and make it a episode arc on this. When you look at it like this, do you just like lose trust in like people that are in decision making? I mean, I'm saying that I'm basically also saying that this movie is a success. Yeah. I'm saying they made the right decision in a way.
Yeah.
But I'm also like saying, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like if you go through all this, the miraculous thing of creating this channel, getting an audience, doing these things in this way, and then figuring out like, okay, now is finally the time where people are going to be making decisions about this thing in the right way. Right?
I mean, yes. it has been frustrating. I'm ultimately very happy with the movie and the way it turned out.
Yeah.
But the lesson I've kind of taken away from this is people really don't believe you can do something until you just do it.
Yeah.
And
then when you do it, though, they still don't believe it if it's got to be something slightly different.
And so we had to like chip away at trust. Went from mini-series to bigger series to full-length series to movie.
Yeah.
And hopefully now people will go, oh, okay, you can make the things.
Yes. Let this guy make things. Just let him make things. At this point. No, I'm serious. Like somebody like me hears stories like this and I'm like, what do you have to do to be able to have freedom to just do something? How many times do you have to prove things? It used to be like, you have to prove things once. And it's not even true anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's kind of the case with everything right now, like resumes in general. You hear all these stories about people saying, I can't get into this industry because they need me to have credits in that industry, but I can't get into that industry because I don't have any credits yet.
Exactly.
So it's like that, pickle.
Yeah.
But the movie's been made now.
And this is the thing. Like I hope, like I have to tell you, bro, I would have never seen this movie if it wasn't sent to me.
Well,
and that's kind of scary because I want to spread the word on this thing. As you know, I think everyone should see the episodes first, of course, to get the full effect. But this is a funny movie, and I'm sorry, but it's rare these days. Okay, and this is bringing me to this big question here. How did you, and maybe you figured this out before the movie, I'm sure you did, but how did you get these fine actors to be on the same comedy plane and same tone? Because there are people, I'm imagining, that come in that are very good actors that are kind of landing this kind of comedy a little too broad and a little too big because they're thinking, it's broad because it's real bros of Simi. You know what I mean? I wouldn't laugh at that.
Yeah.
So it has to be. It lands and everybody's on the same thing. Tell me, is that something that had to be pushed everyone toward, or were they just coming there on that level for some other reason?
I think a lot of the evening of the planes happens in the edit. Because it's good to allow everyone to kind of bring their own thing in a certain way. What gets tricky about that is it starts to, like you said, not be on the same wavelength. So it's a matter of just kind of reeling it in. And it also helps to be in the scenes while you're directing it, because as an actor, I can start to feel something go too far and I can actually, in the scene, bring it back.
Interesting.
Which is nice. But so much funny stuff comes out of the improv, but at the same time, the improv can just go completely off the rails. So the edit gets very frustrating to try to make things make sense and be funny and have all the best stuff in it and not go too far off from what you need to be doing. But what was really helpful about this, it's a forgiving format. I will say that.
You mean the format of
it can be
feature?
Rough, you know, you can miss something.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's supposed to be a reality show.
Yeah, right.
So like,
I see what you're saying.
You can hear, and we kind of like eliminated all the rules.
Yeah.
So, and also after season 2, I was like, okay, we need to shoot the confessionals after. So you have things that start to not work, and you're like, oh, this isn't really working. And
you can tie it up in the...
Sit down with Christian and say, how can we make this make sense?
Yeah.
Throw in a confessional. You can add humor. You can weave things together. And that was helpful for the pace.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And the flow.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things, you know, first season 2, I'm sitting there like, oh no, like, we need another confessional day.
Yeah.
Because a lot of, you know, there's also things that happen on the day that are maybe a funny joke that would be funnier if someone supplemented it with a confessional.
Right.
But you don't have that because it wasn't in the script.
Right.
So then if you go back and do the confessionals after, you can write to what happened, which is how a reality show would go anyway.
That's right. Yeah. Not for the same effect. But for
Right.
Well, that's interesting. And so, but how hard was it for you to be in it, particularly in this feature, shooting this feature, and having to act in it, be funny in it, and have the director hat on at the same time? Like you're saying, you can't even be in the scene. You have to actually sometimes push this toward a certain tone in the scene. And then, so that must have been really like kind of overwhelming to be having this hat. And then you're always thinking about the edit, right? Yeah. As the show's going on.
Yeah.
Or as the shoot's going on.
Everyone always, they watch the show and the movie and they're like, you guys must have been having so much fun. And I'm like, I think everybody else was, but I was having little to no fun.
Yeah.
Because I was just like so locked in, and we had so little time. I mean, we shot the whole movie in 10 days.
What?
So.
Oh my God.
It was 130 pages.
That's insane, man.
So we'd do a take. I'd run to the monitors because for some reason they always put the monitors super far away. and the only way to keep the pace going, I'd literally sprint over, try to watch playback. The scenes where it's just one-on-one, not too bad.
Yeah.
It was the scenes where there's like 20 people and everyone's got to say their line. It starts to get stressful.
Yeah.
Because you can't watch the monitors and you're not going to be able to watch playback on every little thing.
Yeah.
So there's certain times where you got to be like, you know, I'm standing there in the scene and I got to just be like, put the camera on him, say that line. Okay. Put the camera on her.
Yeah.
Say that line just so I can know if we didn't get it in the scene, at least we have these extra little moments.
Right. Are you still able to, in situations like that, really keep track of, is this actually funny?
I think so. Because you can feel it. That's the good thing about comedy, is that you have more of a gauge on when something's good on set than with something that's serious.
Yeah.
If a serious scene happens, 2 actors crying or just something serious. It's a melancholy vibe on set.
Yeah, right.
You walk off, people aren't laughing.
Yeah.
So the gauge, you don't really have a gauge. You finish and you're like, I hope that was good, but no one's really giving me anything. And with comedy, you can feel laughs, you can hear it. the sound guys snicker. You can the camera, like you're them trying to stifle their giggles. You see people kind of trying not to laugh.
Yeah.
You can feel it out a little bit more.
And it's actually maybe even worse than that with drama. You can actually think you have it and you get back and you don't, like, or especially if it's something emotional, right? You're like, oh, they hit it. And they're like, whoa, it doesn't land when you're watching it. That's scary. It's a lot more scary.
That's why for me, it's way more intimidating to do. Like American Vandal was a complete comedy, but we shot it completely seriously.
Right.
So that was the first like serious acting I did.
Yeah.
And I was so much more unsure about myself doing that than I was with anything else.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. And so now, in a way, it's actually good. I'm one of these weird people who, I'm a film person. I love film. I don't know. At this point, like, I hate going to the movies so much. I hate people. That I'm annoyed when something is just in the theaters now. And I know that's, I don't even like, if anybody else was saying that, I would hold judgment against them. And here I am saying it. But I like that this is on in a place you could watch it. You could watch it for free.
Yeah.
It's on the Roku channel. And I don't know. I think we're still in this place where it's like, it's got to have a theatrical release. And I'm like, really though? Everybody seems to annoy, like even older people. I was around some people recently and I was giving them recommendations. You know what they said? Can I watch that on Netflix? No, it's in the theaters right now. Oh, I mean, it's not the young people.
Yeah.
And there's something about that. I know it's sad. It's depressing, but this is available to be seen. And I just want people to see it because it's something that deserves attention, because I really feel like you guys actually did what I want people to do. Put the idol, the god, comedy god idol above everyone, and you've fucking worshipped toward that thing. It feels like that. That's a weird analogy, but you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Instead of some other kind of stupid thing, like you could have done things to kind of fit more in, I don't know, in what's trendy right now. But it felt like people were trying to be fun, trying to make something funny, and that was coming from you. And I really feel like that. I respond to that by actually laughing. Something comes out of my body. It's a noise. It's laughter. It's sometimes it's rare. But now, regardless of what happens with this movie, to me, it's a success. You've done something. It's funny. You have shown once again, we've given trust. You can come through. Now, what do you have your sights set on now for yourself, for what you want to do? And you don't have to get specific. I just want to, unless you want it, but I just want to know at this point, you've set out to do a bunch of things. You got them done. Now what?
I think that I have 4 ideas right now that I really like. And a couple I've had for a really long time. One I wrote a full script for, and I'm just hoping that now I can make them, and I'm hoping now I can make them in a way that's a little easier than this process was. I think that my goal at this point in time, I do want to build out my production company into something that can just make things. The goal is just to be able to make things. And I hope that this allows me to have the ability to do that again and keep doing that. I think that, I have the ideas, and I just hope that I can keep making them.
Well, I'm now a fan. I came to be a fan in a very strange way. but now I'm here, and I look very much forward to what you have to offer next, man. I really mean that. Jimmy Tatro, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been an awesome conversation. I'm really happy that you enjoyed the movie and liked the movie, and it really means a lot coming from you.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.